you would see in the late fall or the early spring. But right now, that is a possible tornado. Another signature is down here around Milton, but that one's very broad. This green and red are very large. What you want them to be is a little more compact, and you want the colors to be a little bit brighter. And when you see that, that's a very good indication of rotation and a possible tornado that's on the ground. So everyone in Milton and especially Allentown, you need to be in your safe place right now, away from doors, windows, first floor of your home. Chumuckla and Jay, you need to be getting in your safe place as well. And anyone that lives up and down this portion of Florida Highway 87 in the northern end of Santa Rosa County. Santa Rosa County north of Interstate 10 is underneath this tornado warning. This is a look at the bigger picture, and this is all part of the big cluster of storms that we've been mentioning the last few weather segments. And look at all the lightning that's popping with this. And lightning is something, again, we haven't seen a lot of this morning, but boy, is it firing off around Santa Rosa County. That is a nasty thunderstorm. So you got heavy rain, you've got lightning, and the possibility of a tornado. Technically, two tornadic signatures and one warning, but the biggest one that's producing a possible tornado is up around Allentown as it lifts to the north at about 60 miles per hour. And this storm packing a punch, and that's the signature right there. Looks like we got a new sweep on it, and it still looks pretty tight as it rolls right over Allentown. So hopefully those of you in this community are in your safe place. If you know anyone that lives in Allentown or anyone just north of Allentown, give them a call. Let them know there's a possible tornado in their area. Remind them that they need to get into their safe place immediately. But that's approaching Spring Hill Road, not Spring Hill Avenue in Mobile. This is Santa Rosa County, Florida. So this is Florida Highway 87, Spring Hill Road, and that's where your possible tornado is located, and it's lifting north fast at 60 miles per hour. And then we have another tornadic signature, one around Milton. It's very iffy whether or not something's there. There are red and green colors connected, but they're very large. They're very broad, and typically when they're that broad, it's usually aloft. It's highly unlikely that anything's on the ground when you see a couplet that looks quite like that. But we're still going to watch it and follow it. But that's the one that seems to be ringing the most alarm bells right now, is the one that's off around parts of Allentown. And we were just doing a regular weather segment on Good Day Gulf Coast, saw the warning fire off on the screen, and there it is right there. You see the tornado warning box. It does not include Escambia County, Alabama, and it does not include parts of Escambia County, Florida. It's only for the northern edge of Santa Rosa County. If you're at the beaches, Navarre, it doesn't include you. This is only for sections that are north of Interstate 10 with this nasty thunderstorm that's moving to the north at about 60 miles per hour. And this is all still part of the outer bands of Ida. This is all still part of Ida that is still churning in Mississippi, but still responsible for sparking off all of these nasty thunderstorms that we've been watching all day long. And there's going to be much more rain on the way across the area as well. But the big storm of concern is this one, the one sparking off the tornado warning in Santa Rosa County. And you can see the signature. It still remains tight around parts of Allentown, and it looks like it's going to be lifting up soon to possibly Florida Highway 4, which is just to the west of Munson, and that's going to continue marching up closer and closer toward Jay. I do think it bypasses Chumuckla. I think if you're in Chumuckla, it's going to be to the east of you. But anyone that's right around that corridor of Florida Highway 87 that runs from Allentown up to Jay needs to be in their safe place immediately. And it looks like it's going to intersect possibly with Florida Highway 4 as it lifts to the north. So we're going to stay with this and follow it and get live updates from the Weather Service. Their meteorologists are watching this as well, just like we are in real time. They make decisions on whether or not to cancel warnings, expand warnings. It all depends on what we see with these things. Typically in a hurricane or in a tropical storm, any tornadoes that spawn off don't last very long. Typically they're very brief, but if it holds together, Allentown, it's going to be to you in a minute and a half. Right now, in fact, on the radar imagery, it looked like it was right in Allentown. Dixonville, it would be to you at 8:47, but technically Escambia County, Alabama is not in the tornado warning. They cut it off right here at the state line. So that's what we're going to be following, is whether or not this thing holds together or not as it gets ready to lift to the north around parts of Florida Highway 4. But that is the area of greatest concern right now, an inbound and outbound wind couplet, what's known as it's a couplet on a velocity display that's a good indication of rotation showing up within a storm, which is how we spot these possible tornadoes. We put it back into rain mode and just look at this from the Garcon Point toll bridge all the way up Florida Highway 87. Just absolute mess with heavy rain, and not only that, but lightning, something that is not really hitting other parts of the area. Matt, what are you seeing?
Well, I just want to make mention, because you made mention of the heavy rain that we're seeing there on the radar. Don't try to get outside and take a picture of this. You're not going to see it. It's going to be very fast moving. It's going to be wrapped in absolutely torrential rain. Absolutely need to stay inside. Another thing I wanted to mention, just got an update from the Storm Prediction Center about the overall picture here and why, even though we're seeing a tropical system that is getting weaker, it's down to tropical storm strength and barely hanging on at that. It's going to be a tropical depression soon. Well, why are we still having the worry of getting tornadoes out of a system like that? Well, we're getting some heating of the day, and in these outer bands, they're getting convective. They're getting thunderstorms, which means we're seeing some lift and rise in those outer bands here along the edge of what is left here now of Ida, and that is where we could see the possibility of tornadoes. So it's sort of an evolving situation is one way to put it, a little different than what we've had with this system, but it is, this overall system is weakening, but different threats now are presenting themselves just as we move along and start to see the heating of the day. And here we go with a tornado warning here for Santa Rosa County.
Matt, that's a really good way to put it, because with a tropical system, when you're not in that northeast quadrant, typically your tornado risk dies off. But that's also one reason we're seeing lightning. And lightning is not something you see very commonplace when dealing with tropical weather. But because it's still muggy and you do have that heating of the day, instability levels rise. And lightning is also an indicator of a storm that can be strengthening. And that is also an indicator of why there may be a possible tornado. You get enough uplift in this storm, and you can see some of that rotation, and it looks like it's still holding together pretty well right around Allentown. It's right over Spring Hill Road, and it looks like it's hugging Florida Highway 87 as it continues working its way to the north at about 60 miles per hour. So assuming that holds together, it looks like it's going to be moving between Jay and Munson. So we're going to stay with this and continue to follow it as we continue on through the Good Day Gulf Coast hours. This is something that we've had to do once before during the morning news. Had to basically just jump in and just go straight to live weather because of a tornado threat. And unfortunately, this isn't going to be the last one today. There are still tornado threats throughout the afternoon. The tornado watch doesn't even expire until 4 o'clock this afternoon. So the possibility of more tornado warnings is going to exist. But anyone right near Allentown needs to be in their safe place. Anyone around Chumuckla, Jay, anyone along this corridor of Florida Highway 87, you need to make sure you're in your safe place immediately. And there's 3 couplets. Actually, yeah, there's one up here in the northern part of Santa Rosa County, one in the middle by Allentown, and another broad one down around Milton. But the one that the Weather Service has kept the warning active for, and specifically, is this one right here around Allentown, where you've got a bright shade of red and a little light shade of green connected. We just got a new sweep scan, and we're still pretty much seeing that couplet hold together. So as long as it still remains intact, it's highly unlikely that we're going to end up seeing the warning canceled, at least in the short term. The warning itself, Matt, how long does it go for?
It goes until 9 o'clock.
So this goes to the top of the hour. We have not really seen these warnings ever go their full length of time. Typically, they're always canceled early for 2 reasons. 1, the systems weaken, and 2, the systems move so fast they move out of the region and into another area. So it's highly unlikely that we'll see it go all the way to 9 o'clock, but it's possible. So we're just going to keep following it and watching it as we maneuver on through the course of the morning. But here you go, looking at that just horrendous amount of rain. Now, what Matt's done is pull back and show you the whole area, and you can see we're still just dealing with offshore to onshore rain as a result of Ida. The heaviest rain bands right now are in the western edge of our Mississippi counties. Western George County, western Jackson County, Mississippi. Mobile and Baldwin, you're getting a little bit of a break for now. A lot of your rain has slacked off, and it's a bit more light to moderate, which is good. But on the eastern edge of our area, right around Escambia County, Alabama to Santa Rosa County, the storms are nasty, producing lightning and and torrential downpours of rain, one of which in particular has sparked off a tornado warning for Santa Rosa County because of not only the storm strengthening, but it is showing signs of rotation. And we've seen numerous indications of that within this particular storm, which is the reason why the warning remains active for the next 30 minutes. So we're going to stay with it and watch it. And if you know anyone that lives in North Santa Rosa County, make sure you let them know they need to be in their safe place. Also remember, the tornado threat is only one key threat we've got today. Flooding is the other. We've seen numerous flash flood warnings, but we'll jump into that momentarily as soon as we take a look at that couplet again. That is the possible tornado right there, east of Florida Highway 87, right around Spring Hill Road, that's lifting up toward Florida Highway 4. Now this is west of Munson. So if you know anyone west between basically Munson and Jay that lives along Florida Highway 4, those are the spots that need to be immediately in shelter. Everyone south of Allentown looks to be okay for now. All the other Florida Panhandle counties for now are okay. There is still one technically some rotation around Milton. But Matt, do you agree with me that just based on what we're seeing here, the broadness, it just doesn't look like it's near as dangerous or as certain as what we've seen around Allentown?
Yeah, and just looking at this whole line here of storms, you can see it right here as I back it out. This whole line is it's very turbulent. Because what's happened, let me actually back it out a little bit more so we can see that loop here. And what you're going to see how it moves into Santa Rosa County? Well, it moved into some very swampy air, and that is allowed to give it some lift and create that instability Michael was just talking about, and create this turbulence essentially in the atmosphere. And I'm looking at some of the different products, and there's just a lot of vorticity going on across Santa Rosa County. A lot of it, like you said, some of it's broad, some of it's tightened up a little bit, and it's kind of thing where it can happen really quick. We can take one of those broad circulations and quickly have it turn into a tight circulation. So it's just something we're going to have to continue to follow, monitor, watch, and track as it continues to evolve and work its way over through Santa Rosa County.
And that's part of the reason why all of this rain is not showing any indications of lightning, but the swampy air in Santa Rosa County is sparking off almost fireworks showing off around this part of the Florida Panhandle, because that air is so soupy and swampy. The mugginess of the air is allowing all these air parcels to rise quickly, so you're getting storms that are worse in this part of the area than everywhere else. It's still pouring rain in other parts of the area, but this is the only real section where you've got lightning and very loud thunder stretching from Monroeville all the way down to Gulf Breeze. But that central part of Santa Rosa County is where the nastiest storm is located, because it is showing an indication of possible rotation. And you can just see the rain very heavy around this entire portion of Florida Highway 87. You go just west of that, you go toward Molino, Cantonment, Gateswood, the rain actually really light right now. You're getting a little bit of break and reprieve from the rain, but you run into this thing and it is an absolute mess that is continuing to train over the same spots. And that's your possible tornado that hasn't really weakened much, but it is getting very close to Florida Highway Florida Highway 7. So you want to make sure that you are Florida Highway 4 rather. So you want to make sure you are in your safe place. And if you know anyone that lives in this area near Florida Highway 4 to Florida Highway 87 between Munson and Jay, tell them that they need to seek shelter. Matt has drawn the arrows on where this thing is moving. It will be crossing into Escambia County, Alabama, south of Bruton. You remember what happened to Bruton with Tropical Storm Claudette? They had an EF2 tornado go through. They don't want to have to deal with any more havocs like this. Hopefully this thing will weaken before it approaches the Alabama state line, but we still need to stay with it and monitor it. It does look like it's weakening. The last few sweep scans have shown an indication that it's backing off, and you can see the Weather Service has redrawn the tornado warning tornado warning box, basically cutting out anything that is to the south of Allentown. So, and you can see the new scan has come in, and Matt, it does look like it's starting to fade, which means I think the odds are getting better that it likely won't be expanded into Escambia County, Alabama.
Yeah, and also we're looking at, they just released a flash flood warning for Santa Rosa and Escambia County, Alabama. So the same area that's getting that storm is now under a flash flood warning, which isn't surprising. I mean, we're looking at pretty intense rain rates here.
Yeah, there it is.
Dropping in, and yeah, I saw it there. Now, yeah, there it is, coming on in. That crimson color is the color for the flash flood warning, and that's because of that strip of heavy rain that is currently moving through that area, and it's training along, so they're going to get multiple inches of rain pretty quickly.
And, and that's what we were just saying a few minutes ago, that not only do we have the big tornado threat today, the flooding threat is even worse. So based on how heavy this rain has been, it doesn't surprise me at all that a flash flood warning was issued. But I do think there is good news that possibly this tornado warning will be canceled sooner rather than later, because the signature, A, is about to move out of the county, and B, it does look like it's getting considerably weaker. Then the only real main threat you're going to have in this area, at least in the short term, is going to come from the flooding. We pull back up the velocity display, and this general area is where the rotation would be, right around Florida Highway 4 and Florida Highway 87. That's between Chumuckla and Munson, and it looks like it's going to keep lifting north, but it looks like it is dying. So it's highly unlikely that we're going to see this thing continue for much longer. We're waiting for word from the Weather Service on whether or not they're going to let the warning lapse, if they're going to cancel it. But just based on what we're seeing in the last few scans, I do think it highly unlikely that it continues. But we want to stay with it just because we know what happened to our friends in Bruton with Claudette. That EF2 tornado ran right over W.S. Neal High School. It was just awful. And so I know those of you in this area certainly don't want a repeat of that, especially with a tropical system tied to it. So we're just going to keep watching this. But the flash flood warning, though, we mentioned also before the day was over, we were probably going to have every single area under a flash flood warning before the day concluded. And so far, I think about 75% of our area has been underneath a flash flood warning. Here's the full watch warning map. Look at how many spots are in this dark shade of red. Those are active flash flood warnings. They literally cover almost every single spot across the viewing area. And those of you that are not under a flash flood warning, your chance will certainly go up as the day continues, and we have that one active tornado warning. Ida is continuing to lift closer and closer to that I-20 corridor. The next update from Ida as far as speed and movement comes out in less than 90 minutes, comes out at 10 o'clock. And I'm fairly certain when we get that next update, Ida will be a tropical depression because the wind speeds have dropped considerably. And once we get those wind speeds to drop below 40, it will become a depression. But we still got this active tornado warning around parts of Santa Rosa County. And, and look at how large this massive rain is that stretches all the way down from Navarre through Allentown and up to Bruton. That's producing heavy rain and just nasty amounts of lightning that are all lifting from the south to the north. And as far as the tornado warning, we've been watching a sign of rotation right here at this intersection of Florida Highway 4 and Florida Highway 87, but the signature is really dying off quickly. Matt, have they mentioned whether or not they're going to cancel the warning?
Not yet, but yeah, you're definitely right on this. Where it's hard to pick it out at this point. But they're going to have to keep an eye on these storms right on that leading edge, because we're probably going to see more of these rotations spinning up here pretty quickly, because once again, we're talking about the leading edge where it's running into some warmer air. It creates the lift that it needs to create the convection, to create the thunder and lightning. That also creates more turbulence there on that leading edge. So we're not seeing as many warnings back in the main thrust of all this rain across the area. It's going to be right on that leading edge where it's most likely to happen, and right over the water as well, where there's a little bit less friction. So something to keep an eye on. Hopefully hopefully this one will get to drop here in just a bit, because we are seeing less rotation in it, but we're going to have to keep our eyes out for more of it as we go throughout the day.
Yeah, and I do think you're right. I think that leading edge where we're watching the storm right now, and I think Okaloosa County, Escambia County, Alabama, probably going to be the ones with the highest probability to see more tornado warnings issued today, simply because you're in that soupier, swampier air with the heating of the day, where everyone else has seen rain-cooled air that's helping to stabilize the air slightly and prevent enough updraft formation to where we're not dealing with any sort of widespread tornado outbreak. This is a look at the bigger picture, and look at how much lighter a lot of the rain has gotten across the central part of the area. That's fantastic news. That's giving the water a big chance to recede, which we want to see. The problem is we got another big massive rain west of Leakesville, Loosedale, and Hurley that's gradually going to be marching its way eastward into our area. So where the water has receded, we could end up seeing a lot more heavy rain working its way in, and that's why we just got to be following this and staying vigilant. You got to make sure you can get tornado warnings and flash flood warnings when they go off. You got to make sure you can get those in real time, and that you know where to go and what to do with these systems as they make appearances. And look at how many spots spots are underneath a flash flood warning. The tornado watch that you see in yellow, that's active all the way till 4 o'clock this afternoon. So the odds of running into a tornado still exist through the second part of the day today. And we've only got that one active tornado warning that's up until 9 o'clock for the northern edge of Santa Rosa County. But it does look like at last check, it's dying off fairly quick. We'll take another look at it again and see if we can spot any indication of rotation within the storm at last check. And of course, the storm itself is nasty, but it just looks like we're just really not dealing with much of that right now. And I think that, but they have not said whether or not they're canceling it, Matt?
No, not yet.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to continue to watch this and monitor it, but we're also going to check back in and see what else is going on regarding Ida, because we still have a lot of news to talk about, because a lot of things have happened to our friends in Louisiana, and we've still got to see how our roadways are looking because of all of the rain. So first thing we're going to do is go to Chelsea, who's standing by in the traffic center. Chelsea, have we seen any sort of changes, or are things still a mess out there?
Well, yeah, I will say I just got some news that Bankhead Tunnel is now reopened in Mobile. So if you're traveling east or west, you can travel through Bankhead Tunnel. Wallace Tunnel is fully reopened, as well as the Bayway. Causeway will be closed here for a couple of hours, a couple of days. So I do want to show you this, you guys. It's a mess right here on 90. This is Bay Bridge Road eastbound and westbound. We've got a couple stalled vehicles stuck in flooding water. It looks like crews are on both sides, and the vehicles that are trying to get to the Cochrane Africa Town Bridge are having to go through the median. I will say I've seen a car stuck in there for at least an hour now. So don't take that road. If you do have to travel this morning, all you have to do is go through one of the tunnels and travel on I-165 if you are trying to get into Pritchard or Chickasaw. Now, we do see a closer look at the Bayway. A lot of people are starting to get on the roads. Again, Causeway is fully closed, but if you're traveling east or west on the Bayway, some traffic there. So again, we're asking you to stay home this morning. A lot of roads are flooded, but of course I'll keep you updated. The latest update is that Bankhead Tunnel is now reopened. Joe?
All right, Chelsea, thank you. So several traffic issues to be aware of there. Make sure you don't leave if you don't have to, and then if you do have to, check on the roadways before you go so you know what the conditions are and whether or not they're open. We're going to go to Hal, but first we're actually going to go back to Michael White for an update on the weather situation that we've been monitoring here. Michael, what's the latest?
Joe, thanks a lot. Breaking news, so to speak. You know, we talked about how Bruton was hit by an EF2 tornado with Claudette. They're now back under the gun. A tornado warning just fired off for Escambia County, Alabama. We were wondering if they were going to fire one off, and they have. But look at that signature that has popped up right over parts of US 29 and Alabama Highway 41. And specifically, the tornado hit East Bruton, and this is almost, or at least very close to that exact same spot. But that is a signature on radar that indicates a possible tornado, and it's a lot stronger than anything we saw previously over Santa Rosa County. But that is your possible tornado right there around parts of Bruton, and that's right around parts of US 29. And it's unfortunate because the last big tropical system we had, Tropical Storm Claudette, you ended up dealing with a nasty EF2 tornado, and now you got another one. We don't have any confirmation of one on the ground, but that's certainly an indication of where a tornado would be, rolling right over the eastern edge of Bruton, lifting its way northward. And Matt, how fast is this one moving, this one that was just issued?
They got this targeted at 35 going to the north.
So it's going 35 miles an hour. Now, this does include Conecuh County. You're included in the warning, too. So those of you around Castleberry need to be getting in your safe place, because this thing is going to be lifting to the north, and that's what we're going to be watching and following as we move over the next several minutes, is that particular possible tornado that is just east of Bruton. Matt's pulled up the debris, what's known as the correlation coefficient, and it shows where debris can be lofted up by radar. And right there, let's zoom in a little tighter. Right here, specifically around Rock Hill, if there's a tornado on the ground, it would be in this specific region. Just to the east of Bruton, north of US 29, it would be in this area, working its way up toward Kirkland and Kirkland Road and east of US 31. So we were just talking about what we would see in this, the eastern part of our area, and how many more tornado warnings we would see issued. And the swampiness of the air continues to fire these things off. We were hopeful we wouldn't see a tornado warning in Escambia County, Alabama, specifically the Bruton area, but now we've got one yet again. And as we match that with the velocity display, you can see that it almost mirrors the exact spot of where a possible tornado is located. We'll go back to the velocity, and you can see that in that exact same location, right there is where the possible tornado is, where you got that inbound and outbound wind connected, and that's running right to the east of US 31 and just north of US 29, and it's moving north at about 35 miles per hour. So those of you even in Conecuh County need to be getting into your safe place right now. That includes Castleberry, just south of Evergreen, as we continue following this possible tornado. And what Matt was overlaying was the debris tracker that we usually use to hunt down a debris lofted up from the radar. Matt, what you may want to do is on that scope, you may want to change the contour on it to the Weather Service colors. It's a little more vibrant, and it makes it a little easier to find any sort of debris that might possibly be within that. So you can change that in the scope tool on the radar and make the color table the Weather Service colors. But for those of you watching, that is the possible tornado that right now is in East Bruton, just to the north of US 29 and east of US 31, and it's working its way northward toward Castleberry in Conecuh County, moving to the north at about 35 miles per hour, and unfortunately packing a bit of a punch with it because we have seen nasty rain and nasty lightning with these storms, and this is just going to continue to plague our area, specifically the eastern portion of our area. Going to be dealing with a lot more of these types of storms as we move through the next several minutes. So we're going to stay with this and watch it. Here's the bigger picture. This is all part of that big line of storms that runs as far north as Monroeville and runs as far south as Navarre. And that whole line has been just a mess with heavy rain and lightning. But what started out in Santa Rosa County has now lifted its way into parts of Escambia County, Alabama, and we see that lightning popping right there east of Bruton is where your possible tornado is located. That's an inflow notch. The winds go in there, and then the tornado would be just south of that, right here where you see this lightning popping. So that's where a possible tornado is located. It's lifting its way northward at about 25-30 miles an hour, and that signature is pretty solid, and that's why we're going to stay with this. And those of you in southern Conecuh County need to be ready for that. So if you know anyone that lives on US 31 between Bruton and Castleberry, tell them they need to get in their safe place right now, because if it holds together, Castleberry would be to you at about 9:08. Kirkland, it would be to you in the next 6 minutes. It would be to you at 8:53. And East Bruton is specifically the spot that had the EF2 tornado go over as a result of Tropical Storm Claudette. It rolled right over W.S. Neal High School. And now, of all things, you got another possible tornado almost in the exact same place from the exact same situation. A tropical system sparking these off along the outer bands. And hopefully this thing is aloft and not actually on the ground. We haven't gotten confirmation of one on the ground, but we're watching and monitoring to see whether or not that is taking place. But don't take any chances. Don't try to get any video of it. Be in your safe place, lowest level of your home, away from doors and windows. Wait for the warning to be canceled or expire before venturing outside. And you can see the reason why we've got this is just this huge swath of storms that's moving its way from offshore to onshore. And you got two big bands of heavy rain, one on the east side of our area and the one on the west side of our area. Thankfully, New Orleans has gone dry. Of course, they got hit really hard with Ida yesterday. They're drying out nicely, but the central portion of the Gulf Coast is dealing with light to moderate rain, getting a little bit more of a break in the action. But the storm cells that we're seeing on the eastern edge of the area have been ferocious because they're producing lightning, and unfortunately they've been producing tornado warnings. And you know, we always tell you the east side of a tropical system is the bad side. There is your example right there, and the west side is the good side. Look at west of the center. Nothing. North wind flow, West Louisiana looks good, Texas looks good, Arkansas looks good, and we're dealing with just an absolute mess. Flash flood warnings sparking off everywhere, and now, unfortunately, tornado warnings are a problem, and specifically for southern Conecuh County and parts of Escambia County, Alabama, right around Bruton, who are under the gun with a possible tornado rolling right over the same spot that it did when we were dealing with Tropical Storm Claudette. If you're in Mobile County and you've been getting a break in the rain, a heavy band that is in our Mississippi counties is marching its way to the east. So although you're getting a little reprieve right now, don't get too comfortable. Very heavy rain is going to be marching its way into your area sooner rather than later, and that's the case for anyone across our area. Know that another big band is on the way. So as we continue to monitor the situation with this specific storm, right now it is over Bruton and producing very intense wind and lightning. Let's drag that a little more to the east. So we can get under the Eglin Air Force Base radar. And there you go is the possible tornadic signature right there in East Bruton, where you got these bright colors, this red and the green interlocked, which shows a sign of tight rotation. And that is the correlation coefficient. This is what we look for to see if there's any debris lofted up from the radar. And right in this general area, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's something. So if there is anything on the ground, it's right here between Kirkland and Rock Hill, which is just to the east of US 31. And based on this and based on what we've seen, you know, man, I know we haven't gotten any confirmation of anything on the ground, but that is by far the best signature we've seen of the morning so far.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, looking at some other products, trying to pinpoint it, it has a good bit of circulation. It's just like what we've been talking about, this leading edge on these storms here over in Santa Rosa and Escambia counties off to the east, where they're finding just fuel, essentially. The center part of where all that massive rain is in Mobile, Baldwin County, most of our viewing area, that we have rain-cooled air because it's been raining all night long. But on this leading edge is finding some more fuel to work with, and that's creating convection, which creates the thunder and lightning, which we're not seeing across much of the rest of the area. And it also creates more turbulence and more instability. And that's why we're seeing these spin ups here along that leading edge. So it's going to be a problem that we're going to continue to have to deal with throughout the morning at least, and possibly into the afternoon, depending on how things play out. But, you know, Michael, this is a weakening storm altogether, right, but it's a changing sort of situation for us. It's a changing situation in the sense that we're not going to have to worry about big wind gusts coming from this tropical system. We're going to have to worry about, once again, the heavy rain piling up, and then some of these quick spin-up tornadoes are not very strong, most likely, but if it goes over your house, it could cause some real issues. So that's why we got to keep an eye on them.
We sure do. Yeah, the wind fields with Ida are weakening drastically. The next update on Ida doesn't come out till 10, but chances are when we get that update, we're going to find out that Ida has weakened back to a depression. I would be shocked if it was still a tropical storm. We just got a new sweep scan in, and you can still see the velocity couplet is still holding together pretty well right over the community of Kirkland. So it's lifting out of Bruton and moving over toward Kirkland and continuing to move to the north at about 35 miles per hour. So anyone in these areas, Murder Creek Road, Upper Kirkland Road, need to be in their safe place right now. You need to be away from doors and away from windows, and you need to be following all of this carefully and waiting until the danger is over before you resume any activities, because this potential storm is dangerous as it is producing a possible tornado. And we have seen a very tight velocity display, which indicates enough rotation that there might be actually something on the ground. And we're still following. Right there is where we've got the couplet itself, that red and green interlocked right there between Kirkland and Rock Hill. That's your tornado, if there is one, and it is moving to the north at about 35 miles per hour. We saw this start off in northern Santa Rosa County. It moved into Alabama. It began to intensify, and sure enough, the Weather Service issued this one specifically just to the east of Bruton, and we'll continue to watch it and follow it throughout the remainder of the morning. But this is just a day where, unfortunately, we've got more of these coming. We've got more bands of rain coming that could produce more flash flooding for the rest of the area.
Hey, Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just for the geography bit of this here, Jason would know it pretty well because it's up Murder Creek is where we're looking at right now. And up into that area, it's called the Miller State Forest here, and there's not much there. There's no homes in there because it's a wildlife management area. So it's lifting through a very rural area up Murder Creek here. So it's moving beyond the like Bruton where the folks are living at. So that's some good news there, that it's not going to be, as long as it's where it's at and it continues to move north through there, it's not going to be impacting homes.
Well, that's good. So, yeah, it's moving out of Bruton, which we know a lot of people live in Bruton. And right now, the signature is over Kirkland. And we'll zoom in tighter so we can get a better look at that Murder Creek region you were specifically mentioning. And you can see right here, so it's right to the east of Kirkland. So Matt, what you were saying is this area here is primarily forest, is that correct?
Yes, once you go north there of Kirkland, right there, and north of Murder Creek Road, then you get into a state forest there and
which is here.
Management area, and there's no homes up there to the east of 31 for the most part.
Well, that's good. So once we get this thing north of Kirkland, hopefully it'll just be only over this Murder Creek region and over forest land and not impacting any specific homes. But right now it's over the community of Kirkland, which is north of Bruton and is going to be hugging US 31. Now, those of you in Castleberry in southern Conecuh County, you've got to get in shelter. If you know anyone that lives there, call them. Let them know the situation. Let them know we've seen tornado warnings going off and that there's one that is possibly moving towards them and moving at about 25 to 30 miles an hour, and they still have a chance to get into their safe place. Matt's pulling up the debris tracker, and right over Kirkland is where we got a couple of bright colors. And when you see these brighter colors over the same spots where we got those velocity couplets, that's usually not good. That's an indication by radar that there could be debris lofted. It doesn't guarantee that that's what's happening, but that's where you have the best chance to see that is in those regions. So right around Kirkland Road, east of US 31, possible tornado on the ground. We just got a new sweep in, and you can still see that the colors are still very bright, but no guarantee that we've actually got something on the ground right now. But one thing we do have is a lot of rain and a lot of lightning with that cluster of storms. What we've mentioned is we have two nasty bands right now, one on the eastern edge of our area, one on the western edge. The eastern edge from Monroeville all the way down to Navarre, and on the western edge, heavy rain, but no lightning with this one, but heavy rain stretching from about Leakesville all the way down to Biloxi. So those of you in Mobile County, if you thought the heavy rain was over, unfortunately it's not. Another band of heavy rain is going to be moving in, and then it's going to be moving on the doorstep of Baldwin County. That's why it's a good thing we're getting all this light rain. It gives the water a chance to recede and the water levels to drop a bit before this next band of heavy rain is going to be marching its way through, because that band of heavy rain is going to be impacting a lot of people, and why we've implored you to stay off the roads. But look at this. Look at south of Hattiesburg. That's not bad. Anytime we got, that is a nice gap in the rain. And what we've seen in the futurecast is that we're going to get a little break in the late afternoon hours before another round begins to push in overnight tonight. But there are going to be stoppages in the rain after we get this big band of rain that you see between Leakesville and Biloxi to push over your individual community. That's what we're going to be watching and waiting for, and then we'll finally get a little bit of a break. And any break we can get in this situation is a good thing. But we'll take a look again at what's going on with the specific tornado warning. And this one goes till how long, Matt? How long is this warning active?
It goes till 9:30.
So this one goes till 9:30. It is north of Bruton. It does include Conecuh County, and the possible tornado is right there, right near the community of Kirk. Actually, this would be north of Kirkland. So this is over the forest land, but it looks like it's going to be working its way in toward parts of Castleberry in southern Conecuh County. And the Weather Service has not mentioned whether or not they're going to let this lapse, right, Matt? Or whether or not it's being canceled.
No, not yet. And like you said, it is over forest land right now, but it will eventually, probably the next 10 to 15 minutes, be up there along Highway 6, where there is, of course, Castleberry and a little community called Holly Grove as well. So they're going to have to watch out for this as it continues to work its way north. And
it's moving north at about 30 miles per hour. That's what we're watching and waiting on, is to see exactly what's going to happen with this particular storm as it's marching its way northward at about 30 miles per hour. The signature not as strong as it was when it was over Bruton, but still it's enough that the Weather Service is keeping it active as it's basically hugging US 31. Now, Evergreen, this does not include you, but it does include Castleberry. Those are the spots that are dealing with the most danger as of right now with this storm that is marching its way northward and has just been vigorous ever since it moved out of Santa Rosa County, moved into Escambia County, Alabama, and now getting ready to knock on the doorstep of southern Conecuh County. So Evergreen and Repton, you're not in this particular tornado warning, but Castleberry is, and this section of Interstate 65 is as well. And that's the signature right there. That's the possible tornado, which is right now between Bruton and Castleberry. We just got a new sweep scan, and you can see the possible tornado is right there up along parts of US 31, and it is on the doorstep. It's right there on the Escambia County, Conecuh County line. So it's right there in the northeast fringe of our area. And that's what we're going to be following as it continues moving to the north at about 25 miles per hour. And it's on that eastern edge of the outer rain bands of Ida. But the signature is definitely, Matt, a lot weaker than it was when it was over Bruton. It looks like it is broadening out a bit and not quite as, I don't want to say terrifying, but definitely not as well defined as it was a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and then there's another one that's up there near 65 that has just kind of wound itself up, and that's going to be the issue that we're going to continue to see along this leading edge. We could see these things quickly spin up, then quickly spin right back down. These aren't the, the big springtime type of long track tornadoes. This is more about sort of the turbulence that's going on in the atmosphere and with the landfalling tropical system. So these will quickly spin up, quickly spin down. They generally tend to be pretty weak, but obviously if one goes over your house or your property, that can cause some real issues. So, you're going through your typical rain band here where you got, heavy rain, and then you get some winds of 20 to 30 miles an hour, but then all of a sudden you get this quick moving tornado that whips through that could bring the winds up to 70 or 80 miles per hour really quickly. So they're not very strong, but like again, if they can go over pretty quickly and they can spin up very quickly. So we're likely to see more of these warnings here as we go through the morning, as we deal with this, mainly this leading edge there that you see along the very front line of those showers and storms. That is where we are seeing the most convection. So what's happened, actually, maybe back up to the board here where you can see that movement there. So what we're seeing is that leading edge. What it's finding is it's finding some warm, humid air, and that's creating some extra lift there right along that leading edge, and that's what's helping to create the extra juice it needs to create some tornado warnings and seeing these quick spin-outs. And we just saw, Michael, a warning get dropped, the one that was in Santa Rosa. So now we're just dealing with the one that is in Escambia County, Alabama, up around Bruton. Yeah, I'm actually surprised they let that one go all the way to 9. That one probably should have been let go about 20 minutes ago. But this is the storm right now that we're following. This is the tornado warning for Escambia County, Alabama, and Conecuh County. That right there, where my finger is the part of the storm that's producing the tornado, and it's right on the Escambia County, Conecuh County line, getting ready to cross over into parts of Castleberry. That is your tornado signature, and it's marching its way near Interstate 65. Now, this does not include Evergreen. This does not include Repton, but it does include the community of Castleberry. So you need to be in your safe place right now, away from doors and windows. As we watch this, as it keeps lifting north into Conecuh County, that means those of you in Escambia County, Alabama, will likely be dropped from the tornado warning, assuming that it holds together in its intensity. And unfortunately, this isn't going to be the only tornado warning that we end up dealing with. There are still going to be the risk of more, and we've still got to get through this nasty band of rain that right now is marching through parts of Leakesville, Loosedale, Hurley, and it's getting ready to knock on the doorstep of Mobile County, unfortunately sooner rather than later. That's our main issue right now, is dealing with this nasty storm. And I'm going to take a look at specifically where all the heavy rain is on the west edge of the area. You can see Loosedale, Hurley, parts of Jackson County, George County, just getting pounded with heavy rain. And those of you in Mobile County, near Grand Bay, Dawes, near the regional airport, that are dealing with light rain, all of this nastiness is heading toward you. So if you thought all of your rain was done, unfortunately it's not. Now the good news is there's no lightning with this, but it is going to be pouring rain. So if you live in a flood-prone zone, hopefully you're getting some relief right now with letting the water recede, because this nasty batch in Mississippi is knocking on the doorstep of Mobile County, Alabama, and will be here very, very soon. And then that leading edge on the eastern side of our area, producing all of the lightning, that's where the tornado warnings have been firing off. And right now, it is moving over into parts of Conecuh County, right around Castleberry, and it is going to be continuing to march its way near
parts of Interstate 65 and US 31. So that puts it over toward County Road 6, east of London near Cleveland Avenue. And that's the signature right there. That's east of Appleton and Janes Mill. And it's going to keep marching its way north at about 25 miles per hour. So everyone in these communities need to be in their safe place. They need to be watching and following this warning as it's going off. And it's just going to be a long day. It was a long day yesterday, a long day today. More waves of rain are going to be pushing through. Hopefully by tomorrow we'll start to see things changing a bit, because the farther Ida gets from us, the better our weather's going to be. That's our new sweep scan, and you can see that the signature is getting a little broader, but still well defined enough that they're going to be keeping the warning in play for at least the next 15 to possibly 20 minutes. So US 31 on the Conecuh and Escambia County line need to be in shelter. Everyone in Castleberry needs to be in shelter. Everyone in London needs to be in shelter. The warning does not lapse until 9:30 this morning. That's when the warning is set to expire, is 9:30. So we'll see whether or not it goes to its full time. But right around County Road 6 and right around Castleberry, that's your possible tornado that's lifting north and approaching the Interstate 65 corridors. So if you're just joining us, I'm meteorologist Michael White along with Matt Barentine. We've been following not only rain from Ida, but also tornadoes. And we've had to jump in intermittently throughout the morning for these warnings. And this is the most recent one. Matt just pulled up the top wind gusts of the area. And Matt, can you explain this a little more?
Yeah, well, I just pulled this up because I know a lot of folks are continuing to be worried about the winds, but unless you get one of these tornado warnings, your winds aren't going to be too bad. We have a system that is weakening in Ida, so the biggest wind gusts that we've seen so far today, like Brooklyn Field downtown, 46 miles per hour, Mobile at 40 miles per hour. Those happen at 1 a.m. in the morning. Now, the ones we've had happen later on in the morning at Crestview, nearly 9 in the morning, they're 18 miles per hour. They just registered that one. So the ones that are coming here this morning are much lower. So unless you get into one of these bands where you get the possibility of one of these quick spin up tornadoes, our winds are going to be much lighter here today. For us today, it's a lot about the rain and watching out for the possibility of these tornado warnings as we go through the day here, especially along this leading line of these showers and storms where we're getting the most convective activity right here off to the east. So anywhere in this leading line, we're seeing a lot of turbulence, a lot of instability in that line. But for the rest of us, we're not seeing nearly as much of that. So that's the good news. We're going to have to keep an eye on that other line that Michael was pointing out off to the west. There is some pretty heavy rain in that right now. We're not seeing any convection, any lightning and thunder. And Michael, that lightning and thunder is really what we're going to be keying in on to see if these things are going to be able to create the lift, to create the turbulence for having some more tornadic activity.
Absolutely, Matt. Yeah, if we start seeing lightning in these storms here, the ones that are in Mississippi producing the heavy rain, if lightning starts popping, that's an indicator that we could start to see enough to uplift that we could end up dealing with a tornado threat moving into parts of Mobile County. But for now, the main threat that's moving into Mobile County is going to be another nasty band of heavy rain. Once you survive it, once you get past that, there's a nice break in the rain that's gradually going to be working its way in, which is going to make things feel much better. Now, it's not going to go completely dry. We're still going to have to deal with more additional pockets of rain, but they're going to be a little more sporadic than what we've been dealing with so far today. So there's your active tornado warning. Look at all the flash flood warnings. Gosh, I mean, it goes all the way up to parts of Monroe County and parts of Clark County, and even outside of our television market, but only very few pockets in the area are not underneath a flash flood warning. These flash flood warnings are everywhere, and with another round of heavy rain coming in from Mississippi, it just doesn't look like they're going to be lapsing anytime soon. So we got this leading edge of showers and storms that are marching from the west to the east, producing heavy rain and lightning, and one active tornado warning till 9:30 that's in parts of Escambia County, Alabama, and Conecuh County. But really, it's Conecuh County that's under the warning because you're the ones that are dealing with the part of the storm that is the most dangerous. You can see, I think the Weather Service has redrawn, they've redrawn the polygon. So that means the area, Bruton, you're no longer in the tornado warning zone. Castleberry is. So that section of Conecuh County is where the most dangerous part of the storm is. That's where you got heavy rain and lightning, and your possible velocity couplet is located right there. And that's located right around parts of US 31 and that is County Road 6, and we're going to continue to see that as it works its way northward toward the Interstate 65 corridor. So if you know anyone that lives along US 31 from Castleberry up to I-65, they need to be in their safe place right now, away from doors and away from windows, as we're continuing to follow this tornado warning in real time and follow these signatures that have been sparking off these possible tornadoes, because they have been just causing a lot of havoc across the area, and we may see more issued as the day progresses. Hopefully this is the last one we'll have to deal with for a while, but we have not seen any indication that the Weather Service will drop it. They did redraw the box. If it does hold together, it's going to be around Bethel at 9:57. And it will be around Old Texas at 10:04. But that's a ways off, and that's assuming that it does hold together. These things sometimes don't when they're on the outer bands of tropical systems. And in less than an hour, we'll get a new update on the statistics from Ida and figuring out how strong it is. But the reason we're on the air is because of a tornado that right now is over Castleberry, or a possible tornado that's over Castleberry in parts of Conecuh County, Alabama, right there around parts of US 31, as it lifts its way to the north and continues to do so as it gets closer to parts of Interstate 65. That's what we're going to be watching and following. And control room, if we can, let's take that camera shot of the beach off, because it's making the map too small, and I want all the viewers to be able to see all the communities and be able to see the fonts bigger. So this is the possible tornado right here around parts of US 31, and it's right over County Road 6, and it's going to continue marching northward up toward Interstate 65. So anyone in this area, get down into your safe place. Belleville, this does include you. It does not include Evergreen, but it does include Castleberry and Belleville. What you got, Matt?
Actually, this is a problem with for whatever reason with the maps. Evergreen actually is in that. Evergreen, it just posts it in the wrong spot. Let me point it out here. It posts Evergreen over here, but Evergreen's actually right here. So that's actually the center of Evergreen. So that is kind of coming up towards town. So folks in Evergreen need to be taking shelter as well.
Okay, so that is a mapping error. Then I'm really glad you pointed that out. That is a map error, a huge map error that we've got to fix quickly. I want to make sure that that's not on every single. Can we go to the radar imagery? I want to look at the radar and some of the other to make sure.
It's the same. It is a mapping issue.
It's a mapping issue. Okay, so yeah, it does not need to be. I don't know how that happened. I don't know why that happened, but I'm glad we're noticing this now. So Evergreen, you are included in the tornado warning, because Evergreen, is right here off parts of Interstate 65. It's not that far off. Evergreen is here around parts of Interstate 65 and near Alabama Highway 12. So Evergreen, you are included in the tornado warning, and you can see this nasty thunderstorm producing heavy rain and lightning lifting up toward parts of Evergreen. So if you're in Evergreen, get in shelter. If you know anyone that lives in Evergreen, let them know right now that they need to be in their safe place, because you don't want to be messing around with something like this. This is a very dangerous storm that has not weakened. In fact, lightning is popping, which, Matt, as we pointed out, can be a sign of intensification and a sign of strengthening. So when we see something like this, it's an indicator that the storm is holding its own, and it might be surviving all the way up into Evergreen as it approaches that Interstate 65 corridor, which is extremely important. And right there is the possible tornado, and it's continuing to lift its way northward toward this region of Evergreen. Evergreen is located right here at Interstate 65, US 31, and State Highway 83. So ignore where it's written here on the map. Evergreen is here, and it's going to be lifting very close to that community. And that's something that we have to be paying very close attention to as we move forward over the next several minutes, as this storm holds together and continues marching its way to the north at about 25 miles an hour. And Matt, the signature, we mentioned the lightning. I mean, it's holding together pretty well.
Yeah, it certainly is. As it continues here to march to the north at around 35 miles per hour, we are seeing it hold together pretty well here. So we have, once again, I mean, it's that leading edge that we're watching, Michael, that has that turbulence and that instability. And this is marching right up highway. Sorry, got it. when we move it around too much, we change radar.
Right,
So that's
we go
what
from Mobile to Eglin.
Right,
Yeah.
so I'll just point that out again. That's the Mobile radar. It does pick it out. Right
it does.
Castleberry, and then when it changes as you head on over, that's the Eglin radar. So it's a little, when we have these on the edge of the area up here around Conecuh County, you're kind of in between two radars, so we have to kind of work with both radars to pinpoint these.
Yeah, and the reason, one of the main reasons why you saw the signature up here, and then in Mobile, when we went to the Mobile radar, it was down here. A part of that is because of the curvature of the Earth. The beam goes in a straight line, the Earth curves, so the greater the distance, you end up getting a beam that's going aloft instead of at the surface. So that's why you got to try to get where the radar beams are closer for a little better accuracy. And right there is likely, because this is off the Eglin Air Force Base radar, that is where the possible tornado is, right there between Castleberry and Evergreen, and right along this section of US 31, right around Interstate 65, and it's holding its own pretty good. We'll see whether or not Monroe County goes underneath the tornado warning next. But that's what we're going to continue to watch and follow as we move forward over the next several minutes. The warning is set to expire at 9:30, and we're just going to stay with this and see what happens. Hopefully, those of you are in your safe place, because it's getting very close. It's getting very close right now to Evergreen, very close as it continues to march its way northward. And with all that lightning, that's a very good indication that it's starting to strengthen, which is the reason why we've had to stay with this and follow it. And you can see right now the last update we got from the Weather Service that it's moving north at 35 miles per hour, and it was located 10 miles southwest of Evergreen. And we even got a new flash flood warning that runs until 3 o'clock this afternoon for parts of Conecuh and Escambia County, and even into parts of Santa Rosa County from this one cluster of heavy rain and lightning that's marching its way to the north and packing one heck of a punch. And we're also continuing to follow this other band of heavy rain around parts of Mississippi that's hitting Leakesville, Lucedale, and Hurley especially hard. And that's going to be rolling right into parts of Mobile County, Washington County. But those of you that are in Mobile and Baldwin and you're getting that break in the rain right now, the next big band is going to be working its way through. So you want to make sure you're prepared for that. That's why we've implored you to stay off the roads. But you look behind this big band of heavy rain, and that's a huge gap in the shower activity. I don't know about you, but I love to see that. Over the last couple days when we've had nothing but nonstop rain and storms, that is a godsend on the back edge of Ida, which is now a tropical storm. Likely we're going to find out at 10 o'clock when we get the new update that it's back to a tropical depression, which means the overall threat for us will start to diminish, even though we're still going to have to deal with waves of rain. This is the current watch warning map, and everything you see in dark red is an active flash flood warning, and that is covering almost the entire Gulf Coast. Yellow is a tornado watch that runs till 4 this afternoon, and this bright red is the active tornado warning that's up until 9:30, so up for the next 15 minutes. And you can see Ida, which is churning up toward Jackson, Mississippi, and will continue to work its way toward the I-20 corridor in Mississippi and then move off to the north and to the east. We're still dealing with that plume of moisture that's pooling rain from offshore to onshore. But one of the last legs of at least the heaviest band in the short term is what's about to approach Mobile County. So if you're watching us anywhere in Mobile County, even though you've been getting a break for about the last 30 minutes to an hour, the next band of heavy rain is knocking on the doorstep, and then it's going to move into Baldwin County next. So if you live in a flood-prone zone, keep that in mind. But if you survive that, and I only mean that as making that as a joking statement, but if you get past this, look at how dry the weather is on the back edge of that band of rain. We're dealing with something that is good. We've been looking for the last few days. We might even get a sliver of sun to come out before the day is over. So we get past this last band of heavy rain in Mississippi, and everything's going to be looking a lot better across parts of the Gulf Coast. You can see, though, look at that, Matt, the lightning popping down in these down around in the Gulf waters south of Biloxi. And the reason why we're pointing that out is whenever we see lightning firing off, that's a sign of a storm cell intensifying, which would increase the probability of there being rotation and a possible tornado. And so far, we hadn't really seen that. We just seen rain. But if that can make its way on shore, Matt, the possibilities there that a tornado warning could show up in Mobile County.
There's a special marine warning for that cell you're just pointing out, and sometimes those special marine warnings end up becoming tornado warnings as they progress. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. There is some rotation. It's fairly weak here right now, but as it comes ashore there in Jackson County, then eventually works its way across the state line into Mobile County. We'll have to keep an eye on it. That is the one area sort of back to the west that we'll have to watch real closely.
Yeah, that's that probably for our area, that's going to be the storm cell we have to pay the most attention to. We're still on the air for the tornado warning that is still active around parts of Conecuh County right now near Evergreen as it's approaching Interstate 65 and US 31. You can still see where the rain is falling heavily. This is Evergreen right here. It was written, we have a mapping error to where it's not showing up where it should, but this is Evergreen right here at I-65 and US 31. And you can see the nastiest part of that rain band and storm is rolling right over you as we speak. And as far as the velocity couplet, it's right over Evergreen. So it rolled up to Castleberry. It's now moving over Evergreen. And eventually it's going to be lifting north of Evergreen. And that puts it outside the tornado warning polygon. And Matt, the Weather Service hasn't said whether or not they're extending it past Evergreen, have they?
No, that is correct. They have not. It is set to expire at 9:30, so we only have 12 more minutes one way or the other.
So that's good in the sense that we haven't seen it expand into another county. It's also good in the sense that the system looks like it's weakening. But as we pointed out, even if we say goodbye to this tornado warning, we've still got that next band of heavy rain coming in from Mississippi. And off the coast, we're seeing lightning showing up because that's an indicator of strengthening. So we're not out of the woods yet as far as tornado threats to the west. Around parts of Mobile, Baldwin, you're not out of the woods yet, but flash flooding is still going to be a major concern as we move in over the next several hours. But after today's over, things are going to look a lot better. And by the time we get in toward the end of the week, it's really going to look a lot better with conditions improving, sunshine, lower humidity, even temperatures getting back in the upper 60s by Thursday and Friday of this week. Cannot wait for that. That's going to be a great way to kick off the unofficial end of summer, the Labor Day weekend. The velocity couplet, Matt, it just looks like it's fading quickly right over Evergreen.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's pretty wide and broad, but that's still going to mean some gusty winds in and around Evergreen that could do some damage. So something to keep in mind. Even as these things, well, they spin up and they spin down, they can still bring some pretty gusty winds. That's like what we're looking at, especially there along 65 right now. Obviously, not a good day to drive really anywhere, but obviously this leading edge that we're seeing over here on 65, you really don't want to be driving into.
And that's one reason that we have implored people to just stay home today. This is not a day you want to be getting out on the roads, not just because of the tornado threat, but that flooding threat is massive. The rain rates are so heavy. And you look at how big this massive rain is from Evergreen all the way down to Navarre. It's just awful. And you've also got that band of heavy rain that's in Mississippi that's going to be marching through. You don't want to be driving. You don't want to be trying to get lunch, having to go through any of this. And Matt, those pockets of lightning are getting awful close to Pascagoula, which would be a sign of a strengthening storm system. So all of this that's in Jackson County, Mississippi right now as it's approaching Mobile County, Dawes, West Mobile, Biola Battery, Grand Bay, you need to buckle up and be ready because heavy rain's coming in. And with lightning showing up, obviously that's a hazard, but that's also an indication of a strengthening storm cell that might produce rotation. Possibly not enough that a tornado warning would be issued, but it is something that is going to really bear watching because that'll be the first pockets of lightning that we've seen roll through this morning other than what we've been dealing with across the Florida Panhandle. Lightning has been very thin with this entire system, thankfully, but not around the Panhandle. That's where the lightning's been popping profusely and where we've got the most dangerous storms from Navarre all the way up to Evergreen. But that tornado threat moving out of Conecuh County, or not of Conecuh County, but moving out of Evergreen and lifting north into Monroe County outside of the tornado warning polygon. So odds are this is going to be canceled or expire right at 9:30. We'll take another look at this thing, and you can see that, yeah, it's moving outside of the danger zone. This is Evergreen right here where my fist is, and it looks like it's lifting out of Evergreen where the possible tornado would be and moving up into the northern edge of Conecuh County. And we have not heard word on whether or not that warning is going to be expanded to include anyone else.
Just cut.
It's gone. It has been canceled.
It has been
So the
canceled.
warning has been canceled. So as of now, no active tornado warnings, but we still got a lot more to follow regarding Hurricane Ida. So we are going to take a quick timeout, and when we come back, we are going to join Studio 10. Stay with us.